Shalom, Israel. This is Sister Edna Israel. Thank you for subscribing to Kingdom Builders of Israel LLC YouTube page. To be enlightened and to help this truth grow, spread the message about this channel to family and friends. Again, we appreciate the love, Israel, and stay tuned for this class lesson.
Shalom, 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 Israel. This is Captain Paul Israel from Kingdom Builders of Israel LLC, and today's class topic is going to be on what is the love of Yahweh according to the Bible. Again, Israel, today's class topic is going to be on what is the love of Yahweh according to the Bible. Okay, Israel, today is going to be a good class topic to discuss due to the fact that our people in today's time don't know how to love Yahweh the right way. Okay, so this Bible lesson is going to prove how we supposed to love Yahweh the correct way. Okay, and what Yahweh expects us to do in these last days on how to love him. Okay, because many religions are teaching our people that the love of the Most High or the love of God is what? Just loving everybody, just loving all nations, right? That's what they teach in the religion world, right? And also the Christian pastors of today are teaching that, hey, you love God, you give 10% of your money, and also you love everybody. Okay, but we're going to open up this Bible to see what the Bible actually says. Okay, how to love the Most High, how to love God, or how to love Yah. Okay, how to love Yahweh the right way. So get out your notepad and your pen, right? So you can start taking your notes so you could prove to other people this is how you love Yahweh. Okay, the right way. Okay, now according to what pastor has been telling us for years, or according to whatever prophet that our people have been listening to that has been teaching our people lies. Okay, so it's time to study thyself to be approved. Okay, or we need to rightly divide the word of truth. Okay, so we can get the proper understanding. Okay, so we're gonna start out this lesson on what is the love of Yahweh according to the Bible. So we're gonna start this lesson on the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 17, to start it out so we can get the understanding of what love is, okay, the correct way. So we're going to start out in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 17, okay, to get the understanding, okay, so we can get the understanding of love according to the Bible, okay, how we supposed to love Yahweh. Okay, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 17. It says, ye shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, and his testimonies, and his statutes, which he hath commanded thee. So you see this, Israel? Yahweh hath commanded us to keep his commandments. Okay, Yahweh didn't give us, let's say, leniency to just do what we want to do. He gave us commandments. That's why it says, which he hath commanded. You say that? You see this, Israel? It said, which he hath commanded thee. So Yahweh, the Most High Yah, right, made it known that he commanded the children of Israel to keep his commandments. Okay? Point blank, period. There's no getting around this, you Christians. Okay? This is in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 17. Okay? So now we got the understanding that Yahweh gave his commandments to the children of Israel that we supposed to do. Because that's a commandment. That's an order. So now we go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 6, right? This is how we're going to get the understanding how we supposed to show our love unto the Most High, right? So now we got the understanding, of course, in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 17, that Yahweh gave us commandments to do, right? Now we go to Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 6, where it says how to walk in the commandments, right? It says, Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 6, it says, therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh thy Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him. So again, we supposed to walk in the ways of these commandments. So that means that's not a stopping point. So if you're walking, that means you're keeping going, you moving at a certain pace. So nowhere in this Bible did Yahweh say, hey, you could stop keeping my commandments. You're not going to see where Yahweh says, stop keeping my commandments. You're going to see where it says, walk in his ways, walk in these commandments, keep the commandments. That's why you go right here again. It says, therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh. So we supposed to keep the commandments of Yahweh. Okay, it says, keep the commandments of Yahweh, thy Elohim, to walk in his ways, not what we learned in the world ways, but we supposed to walk in his ways, talking about Yahweh's ways. So Yahweh's ways is these commandments, and to fear him, meaning we fear the judgment. We fear the consequences of breaking the commandments. Okay, that's why many of our people do not fear the Most High, because that's why they continue doing sinful deeds, because they do not fear the Most High. Okay, the children of Israel will fear the Most High eventually when they see more chaos, more judgments being laid out on this earth. Okay, as time goes on. But in general, we the children of Israel are supposed to walk in his ways, the Most High's ways, not religion. You don't see nowhere in this Bible where it says walk in religion way. You know what I'm saying? You don't see no mention of Christianity nowhere mentioned in this verse right here. Okay. Now we got to understand that we supposed to keep the commandments, right? And then we went to, of course, Deuteronomy 6:17, right, where it says we supposed to keep the commandments, right? So we seen it basically two different times, and we got the understanding that this is what Yahweh commanded us to do. So there's no confusion. Okay, we read it, and then one verse right here, Deuteronomy 6:17. Then we read it again, Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 6. So there's no confusion right here. Okay, so now this is how we get the understanding of the word love. Okay, because we have to get the context on who Yahweh loves, because many people in the religion world say Yahweh or God Almighty loves everybody. But let's read this Bible in the proper understanding. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 8. It says, but because Yahweh love you, and we know who this context is talking about, the children of Israel, right? When we keep on reading down, it says, but because Yahweh love you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, have Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt. So Yahweh said he loved the children of Israel because only the Israelites was enslaved or in slavery under Pharaoh when we was in Egypt, when the children of Israel was in Egypt. So this is not talking about Yahweh loves everybody. This is talking about Yahweh loved the Israelites, because Israelites were slaves under the Egyptians. Okay, the Israelites were slaves under the Egyptians, not all nations. Okay, as you can see, this has nothing to do with all nations like they teach in the Christian church. This is talking about the children of Israel, where it says Yahweh loved you. So Yahweh loved the children of Israel. Okay, and he's the one that redeemed us out of the house of bondmen, or the house of bondage, from the Egyptians. Okay, not all nations. Okay, so we're gonna let this Bible be true, every man a liar. Okay, these are verses that the Christian pastor is not going to read, because it goes against his doctrine. Okay, so now we get the understanding that Yahweh loved us, the children of Israel. So now we go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9, right? Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9. It says, know therefore that Yahweh, thy Elohim, he is God, right? He is God. He is the one true powerful, right? That's what that's getting into, right? The faithful Elohim. So Yahweh is the faithful Elohim. He's faithful unto those who basically is obedient unto him, right? It says the faithful Elohim, which keepeth covenant, So as you can see, Yahweh keeps his covenant, okay? Which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. Whoa, wait a minute. You see that, Israel? Yahweh says what? He's going to show mercy and love to them that keep the covenant and keep the commandments to 1,000 generations. Whoa. That is contrary to what the Christian church is talking about. Because the Christian church is telling people, hey, all you got to do, pay your tithes, right? And just say the name Jesus. And God is going to show you mercy and grace for that. No, Yahweh says he's going to show you mercy and grace when you do what? Keep the commandments, keep the covenant and the oath that he gave to our forefathers. And you're supposed to do it generational. You're supposed to keep it going, not stopping. Okay? The Bible doesn't contradict itself because it says keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. That's not stopping. 1,000 generations, that's a lot of generations, right? So what is the Christian church talking about? What are these other religions talking about? Oh, that's right. The other religions, they don't get involved with the commandments. Religions have nothing to do with the commandments. That's why you don't see the word religion in this context. That's why you don't see the Christian faith in this understanding. This is a conversation between the Hebrew Israelites. Let's read this again. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 9. Know therefore that Yahweh the Elohim, he is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. You see that, Israel? He shows mercy unto those that keep his commandments. Okay? That's how you show love to the Most High, by keeping his commandments. Okay? This is the proper understanding on how to show love to the Most High, or what is love. What is the love of Yahweh according to the Bible? The love of Yahweh according to the Bible is what? Keeping his commandments to 1,000 generations. Point blank, period. That is the love of God. That's the love of Yahweh. That's the love of Yah, by keeping his commandments. Okay, this is not rocket science to figure this out. This is basic knowledge, understanding. Okay, so now we got the understanding that the love of the Most High is keeping his commandments, so we can get mercy from the Most High, right? This is the book of Psalms chapter 97 verse 10. So when you say you love the Most High, right? When you say you love the Most High, let's see what that entails. Okay, because many people say, I love the Lord, I love God. But let's see what you have to have that state of mind of being like when you make these statements that you say you love God. This is the book of Psalms chapter 97 verse 10. It says, ye that love Yahweh hate evil. Uh-oh. You see that, Israel? It says, ye that love Yahweh hate evil. So when you say you love the Most High, right? You're supposed to say, I hate evil. I hate sin. Because that's what evil is. Evil is sin. So if you see sinful deeds going around, you're not supposed to be fellowshipping with that understanding, because you're supposed to be loving God or loving Yahweh, right? So you're supposed to hate the sinful deeds. You're not supposed to entertain sin. Okay? It says, he preserveth the souls of his saints. He delivered them out of the hand of the wicked. So you see this, Israel? When you love the Lord or you love Yahweh, you hate evil, right? You don't want to be around it. It says he preserved the souls of his saints, meaning he's going to protect you, right? The reason why people are facing the trial tribulation at a high alarming rate in these last days is because they do not show love to Yahweh. Because many of our people, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they love sin. They love to do evil. But according to the Bible, if you love Yahweh, you're supposed to hate evil. You're supposed to hate unrighteousness. Okay? So this is why I created this platform on Kingdom Builders of Israel LLC. Because why? I hate sin. I hate evil. Because I love Yahweh. Right? When you love Yahweh, you hate sin. So you have to find out ways to come out of your sin so you can love Yahweh. So you cannot say, I love Yahweh and still stay in sin to the point where you can't get out of sin. Okay? So this is what we're supposed to do. Come out of sin so we can love Yahweh. Okay? So this is why I have this channel, Israel, to get you out of sin. Okay? So you can be in the right eyesight of the Most High to get mercy and to be delivered for salvation. Okay? This is the book of 1 John chapter 3 verse 23. Okay, this is the book of 1 John chapter 3, verse 23. It says, and this is his commandment. See, we see in the word commandment again, and we are in the New Testament for you New Testament Christians. Okay, this is a commandment. It says that we should believe on the name of his son, Yahshua HaMashiach, and love one another as he gave us commandment. Whoa, wait a minute. You see this, Israel? Why, when we open up this book in the New Testament, it's still talking about commandments? But Pastor Porkchop, right, he's telling his congregation, hey, the laws of God are done away with. There's no need for no commandments because Christ paid the way for that. We not underneath the law no more. But here yet, we seeing the word commandment in the New Testament. So there's a contradiction from these ministers' mouth. But the Bible doesn't contradict itself because it said when we read in the Old Testament that Yahweh, right, loves us when we keep his commandments. And he's going to give us mercy when we keep his commandments. And we show love unto Yahweh also when we hate evil, in which we know evil is sin. Okay? So this is how you break this Bible down to get the proper understanding. Okay? Because too long we've been hearing lies. Okay? Hearing lies. Okay? This is the book of 1 John chapter 3 verse 24 to get to the point. Okay? This is the book of 1 John chapter 3 verse 24. And it says, and he that keepeth his commandments, here we hear the word again, commandments or commandment, right? Notice it says, and he that keepeth his commandments. Didn't we just read that, understand earlier in the book of Deuteronomy, where we have to keep Yahweh's commandments as he commanded us, the children of Israel? Let's read this again. 1 John chapter 3, verse 24. It said, and he that keepeth his commandments dwelleth in him. Meaning you dwell in the Most High Spirit. You dwell in Christ's spirit because Christ and Yahweh are operating on the same type of spirit vibration. Okay, which is righteousness. And it says, and he in him, and he in him. So you dwell in him and he in you. It's basically, that's what it said, and he in him. So you get the correlation. So when you keep Yahweh's commandments, you are in the right spirit of the Most High. And then now the spirit of the Most High can be on you as well. Y'all operating as one. And it says, and hereby we know that he abideth in us by the spirit which he have given us. So the spirit that Yahweh gave us was his laws, statutes, and commandments, because his commandments are righteous. That's the right spirit. Because when we apply Yahweh's laws, we are in the right spirit. Okay, we are in the right spirit. We're not going to worry about murdering our brothers and sisters because we in the right spirit. We're not going to worry about whoring our sisters out here because we in the right spirit. We're going to say, no, we're going to marry that sister, right? We're going to say, no, we're not going to murder that brother. We're going to show this brother how to live the right way. That's when you operate in the right spirit of the Most High Yah, and also through the right spirit through Yahshua HaMashiach, the Black Messiah. Because the Black Messiah showed us how to walk in the right spirit of Yahweh. Okay? He showed us this. But here we in the New Testament where we're hearing about keeping the commandments. Why is the Pastor Porkchop not reading these verses? Right? Why are they not reading these verses? This is in the New Testament where it says, and he that keepeth his commandments dwelleth in him. Okay? You don't see nowhere in this Bible where it says, don't keep the commandments. Show me a verse where it said, don't keep the commandments. You're not going to find it. Okay? It doesn't exist in this Bible. But the Bible always promotes keepeth his commandments, or keep Yahweh's commandments. Okay? Let's read it again in the other book of John, John chapter 14, verse 15, because we were just in the book of 1 John chapter 3, verse 24, where it says, keepeth the commandments, right? Keepeth Yahweh's commandments. Now we're in another book of John chapter 4, verse 15, because we know how modern day Christians like say, oh, that's just one verse. You're manipulating the verse. No. Let's keep reading. It's going to say the same thing again, but it's going to be more specific on the topic on love. It's going to be more specific. This is the book of John, chapter 14, verse 15. It says, if ye love me, keep my commandments. Whoa, wait a minute. And this is in red letters. This is red letters. This is the Black Messiah speaking. He said, if ye love me, because many Christians in the world, many people in religion in the world be saying, hey, I love Jesus. I love Christ. Right? But they don't know the love Christ is action behind it. There's action behind it, which we just read also in the Old Testament in the book of Deuteronomy, that if you love the Most High, you're going to keep the commandments, right? That's how you're going to get mercy. If you love the Most High, what you're going to do? You're going to hate evil, right? Meaning you're not going to be condoning sin. You're going to be doing the commandments, which is righteousness, which is not sin, okay? It says, John chapter 14, verse 15 again, if ye love me, keep my commandments. So if you love Christ, you Hebrew Israelites, keep the commandments, right? If you love Christ, you Christians, so-called Christians, keep the commandments. That means you're going to have to come out of your religions, because Yahweh didn't give religion. He gave commandments, as you've been reading from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Commandments. There's no escaping Yahweh's commandments. Okay? We can go to the Old Testament, Apocrypha, and New Testament, still going to be talking about commandments. Okay? So we're going to keep cutting you up, you Christians. Okay? Keep the commandments. That's out of Christ's mouth. This is red letters. So I'm going to keep cutting you up with these verses. You Christians of today, going to get cut up with this Bible. Okay? This is a cut unto you Hebrew Israelite Christians, man, that don't want to keep Yahweh's commandments. Okay, so we're going to let this Bible be true and every man a liar. Christ out of his own mouth said, keep my commandments if you love me. The same application Yahweh gave in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 9. So Yahshua is in the right spirit of Yahweh. So like I said earlier, Yahweh and Yahshua are operating on that same spirit. Let me read Deuteronomy 7:9 again before I get to the next book in the New Testament. Let me read this again to show that Christ is in the right spirit. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 9. It says, know therefore that Yahweh thy Elohim, he is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. So Yahweh said, keep his commandments, right? Keep his commandments. So now we go to the book of John, chapter 14, verse 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. So Christ is saying the same thing. Yahweh gave the order to Moses to give to the children of Israel. You see how Yahshua is in the same spirit of the Most High Yah? They all on one accord, in agreement. Okay? So there's no confusion here. The confusion comes from our people. They don't read the Bible. Okay?